Hello, my dear students. Wish all of you are fine. I'm your course teacher, Ifatara Jahan. And today our discussion topic is structure and classification of fungus, and it is our second part. In our first part, we already finished in our last class where we already know about the basic things of fungus, that is, what is fungus and different structures and parts of fungus. With that, we also read about some parts of the systematic classification. Now we know about what is chytrids, what is zygospore, what is ascospores, all of the things we are now clear. In our today's class, we will read about other two phylum and our morphological classification of fungus. So let's start that. First of all, that is our Basidiomycota, that is our fourth phylum of systematic classification of fungus, which also we know about club fungi. So now there is question why we call it club fungi. There is a reason behind it. What is that? That is like that these Basidiomycota are easily recognizable by shape, what is called the club shape. Okay, and for that club shaped bodies, or we can say the fruiting bodies, we say that fungi as club fungi. And the spores are mainly called the basidia. Okay, so which body actually we say the fruiting bodies. Now we can see there that there is some actually club fungi are there. This is called the fruiting body. Okay, this body is called the fruiting body actually, and this body, as it's shaped like a club, we say that it's a club-like fungi. And with that, we also know it like mushroom-like shape. Okay, and its example of club fungi is also mushrooms. And these mushroom producing basidiomycetes are also called as gill fungi. Why it is gill fungi? Because the gill-like structures is present underside the cap. That is, if you say that, that is a cap-like shape, and under that, in that portion, the inside of that cap is some portion present there like the root of the plant. Okay, and there also you can say that it's hyphae like a structure, they're interconnected with each other. That is the inner portion of that cap, and for that reason it's also called the gill fungi. So what is gill? I've already mentioned that is gills is compacted hyphae from which the basidia are born, and its presence the inside of that cap. So that is our club fungi, and it's also called with that gill fungi. And our next one is glomeromycota, or we also say that mycorrhizae. Okay, that is the nickname. And it's a newly established phylum actually, and these glomeromycetes do not reproduce sexually. It's always reproduce asexually. Okay, and always it will be a asexual reproduced fungi, and it cannot survive without the plant root. Why? Because mainly they grow on the plant root. Okay, and their hyphae is called coenocytic hyphae, that you already know from our last class. But in Zygomycota, we read that this coenocytic hyphae is also present in Zygomycetes or Zygomycota, and in Zygomycota they can produce zygospore. These glomeromycetes also contain that hyphae, but they do not form zygospores. Okay. So if we go for a summary of the whole systematic classification with the example, that will be like that. How it is? Our first phylum, that is our Chytridiomycetes or Chytridiomycota. Its common name is chytrids, and hyphal organization is coenocytic hyphae, and it's reproduced two types. One is asexual, another is sexual. If it is asexual reproduction, then they produce motile zoospore. If you can remember, that is a flagella that with that this zoospore can move. So it's called motile zoospore. And another is sexual, and they also reproduce with the sporangiospores. Example, Allomyces. Then our second phylum is called the Zygomycota, and its common name is bread molds, and its hyphal organization is also like choanocytic hyphae, and their sexual reproduction is happen with the sporangiospores. And if it is sexual reproduction, that it's called the zygospores. An example like Rhizopus stolonifer. Then our third phylum, that is called Ascomycota. Its common name is sac fungi, and their hyphal organization is septate hyphae. If they reproduce asexually, it's called the goniospores. If they produce sexual reproduction, it's called the scospores. And these scospores actually help to sexual reproduction. An example like Saccharomyces cerevisiae is mostly for asexual reproduction, and for sexual reproduction the example will be Aspergillus penicillium. And if you can remember, in our last class we already also learned about that this Ascomycota or sac fungi is very much commercial important. Okay, because that is a yeast, this is a yeast, and it's mostly used in the food industries, and it's also a medicinal importance. Why? Because from that penicillium, medicine is also prepared. Then our fourth one, that is Basidiomycota. Its common name is club fungi, and its hyphal organization is septate hyphae. Asexual reproduction of 10%. Sometimes it shows asexual reproduction, but mostly it shows sexual reproduction with which with the basidiospores. Example, mushrooms. Then our last one, that is Glomeromycota. That's common name is mycorrhizae. Its hyphal organization is choanocytic hyphae, and sexual reproduction is absent there. It's only asexual reproduction present there, and it's can happen by two ways, either the spores or with the process of fragmentation. And example is Equilospora. Okay, so that is our or these are our 5 phylum of systematic classification with common name, hyphal organization, reproduction characteristics, and with the examples. Okay, and if you go for the 2 kinds of hyphae for your memorizing, I can remind you again, that is called the septate hyphae. There will be some division and some pores, and in case of choanocytic hyphae, there will be no division. It will be like that. So our systematic classification is done. Now we will start our morphological classification. As you learned in our last class, morphology means the physical appearance, or by which we can divide it, the fungus in 4 types. First of all, it's called filamentous fungi or mold, then yeast, then dimorphic, and our last one is yeast-like fungi. So go for first one, that is filamentous fungi or mold. What is that? That is the basic morphological elements of filamentous fungi. It's a long branching filaments or hyphae which intertwine to produce a mass of filamentous or mycelium. That means these hyphae are intertwined together and produce a mycelium root of plant-like organization. With that, some other characteristics also present. What are they? That is, colonies are strongly adherent to the medium, and it cannot emulsify in water like bacterial colonies. And the surface of these colonies may be velvety, powdery, or a cottony figure or cottony surface, that when you touch that, you can feel that. Example like Aspergillus flavus. Then our second one, that is yeast. It's a very common one. We already know it's a single cell, and it reproduces always asexually by the process termed as fission formation, and they are estimated to constitute 1% of all described fungal species. That means, and among the 100% of the fungus, it's almost 1%. Then these occur in the form of round or oval bodies, which reproduce by the formation of buds known as blastospores. Okay. Then you can question what is buds. Actually, we will more clear in our reproduction class. But now I just want to show you what is buds actually. If it's a plant-like shape, or if we already say it's a asexual reproduction, then what will be buds? From body's one part or anywhere, there will be started like small body, small part. It's called the buds. Okay, and whenever it's mature enough, then it will be divided from the mother cell, and it will be like another growing one or mature one. Okay, but whenever it attach with the mother, it's called the buds. Okay, and these buds contain spores which call blastospores, and it cannot make their own food with photosynthesis, but they can use the starch or polysaccharide to give off carbon dioxide and produce alcohol through respiration process. And with that, there are also some characteristics. What are they? Like, yeast colonies resemble bacterial colonies in appearance. Okay, they are so much congested and present in a way. Sometimes they show the appearance like bacterial colonies. And the example will be Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So these are two. Now our third one, that is called the dimorphic. So what is dimorphic fungi actually? There is a word di, that means double, a two. These fungi actually exist in the form of both mold and yeast. So it's called the dimorphic fungi. How it is? Actually, it can change with the environmental condition. Okay. If it is in soil, then it can grow as a mycelium with the help of the mycelium. And this is a characteristics of mold. Okay. And whenever it present in human body, okay, or when it touches or attach with human body, it's grow like a unicellular organism, which is the characteristics of yeast. So it's called a dimorphic fungi. And the example is Blastomyces dermatitis. Okay. Then our fourth one, that is our yeast-like fungi. If you go for that, there is a thing that is not actually yeast, it like yeast. Okay, and it's also produce buds, so it's called actually it's like fungi. And there is a characteristics which is different from the yeast, that with that bud they can produce a unbranched filamentous cell. Okay, and these unbranched, that means they can produce filament, but it will no branching. In case of mold, they can produce branching, but in case of that, they cannot produce the branching. It is an unbranched filamentous cell. Okay, and here also present septate hyphae, and when this septate hyphae interchange together, it's prepares pseudomycelium. It's not mature mycelium, it's called the pseudomycelium, like the mycelium. Okay, so it's called yeast-like fungi. Then it's also grouped together, and the genus is called Candida, and the spore is called Candidiospore, and it can be pathogenic for humans. Okay, normally yeast is not pathogenic for human, but this yeast-like fungus is pathogenic for human. Example, Cryptococcus neoformans. You also read that example, that is Candida albicans. It's also example. So now we learn about what is morphological classification with characteristics and examples. Now we will learn about a very common thing, that is difference between yeast and mold. So now we know about yeast and mold, then what would be the difference between yeast and mold? Here's some difference there. That is, yeast refers to a macroscopic fungus consisting a single oval cell, and in case of mold, it refers to a growth form of fungus which grows in the form of multicellular filamentous spore hyphae. It's very common in the environment, but in case of mold, it mostly found in damp, dark, or steam-filled areas. If you go for shape, it's mostly shaped oval. With that, It's each colorless and smooth, and each color can be green, orange, black, brown, or pink. It mostly reproduces through budding, and molar reproduces through sexual or asexual. Used in baking industry mostly in the production of ethanol. With that, it's also used some wine industries or beverage industries where fermented beverage can be produced with the help of yeast, and it's mainly used in the production of cheese. Okay, and with that, yeast, only pathogenic yeast actually, that is like fungus, can produce disease in human bodies, and mold obviously produce disease in human bodies. Sorry. Example, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Example, mucor and penicillin. So that's for today. That was on our classifications and of fungus, systematic and morphological classifications. And in our next class, we will discuss it more. Thank you.